Paul Vaughan. I'm the Senior Manager at Fife Council for Policy, Communications and Area Management. And the reason we were involved in the project, or I'm involved in the project, is that I have Senior Officer responsibility for equalities within the Council as part of the policy remit. The Fife was approached, I think as a number of local authorities decided that we would get involved for a number of reasons, but primarily we had been involved in an approach to integrated impact assessments in the past, which hadn't proven as successful as we would have liked. And we thought that this was a good opportunity to look at it again and to see what we could learn from others and see if we could actually embed it into the council in a little bit more fully than we had been previously. The other parts of what we've done since then was to look at what area we actually wanted to explore, and welfare reform being such a big area for us at the moment and a big issue, we decided we'd look at a specific aspect of welfare reform, and that was lone parents. We then have done a number of interviews with folk who are going through the changes of welfare reform, and they used that evidence to run a workshop with frontline staff who are involved in helping these people to see what mitigating actions we could actually do. And the part of what we're away to do next is then to try and build that into some of the council activity and policy in this area. I think it was important because the agenda around impact assessment and around equalities has been there for quite some time, but the council over the last few years in particular has, because of the budget challenges it's been facing, has got much more heavily involved in trying to do the impact assessment. And I think also that councillors are now much more aware that it's not just about the protected characteristics in the equalities legislation, that a lot of these impacts are occurring across numerous fields, and so even economic impacts, which previously hadn't really been getting looked at, are having quite a big effect. So I think the point for us here was that this was potentially an opportunity to bring all of that together into one arena that we could actually look at and see if there was something that would help the council in the future look at the changes it wanted to make to its services. I think that in the latter stages, yes, we did manage to get the pilot to be successful. I think we probably spent a little bit too much time actually trying to work out what we were actually wanting to do, but I think at the end of it, we've actually come up with something that's actually really very useful. What I think we hope on there's a number of fronts that we'd want to actually start to work on potentially using this approach. First of all is around better decision making and assessment of budget proposals. And certainly I think that one of the things we'll look to do over the coming year is possibly use either the Senior Equalities Group or a budget group to actually use this technique and use the techniques that we've developed through this process in looking at all the budget pro formas. I think the second aspect of it though is just the general change that the council goes through over the course of the year and the committee decisions that are actually being taken. I think in the past we've been quite specific in terms of only looking at the protected characteristics in terms of the equalities legislation, but this has given us an opportunity now to actually look much more widely, and so the intention will be that as part of the Equalities Action Plan for the next year that we actually embed this as one of the key parts of the action that we want to take. My reflection would be that although it may seem that actually when you get into the debate and actually use it as a technique, it doesn't actually become like that. It becomes much more of an approach to be able to open doors to a number of very important policy questions. So I think the breadth of the human rights legislation as opposed to the equalities legislation on its own allows a much broader discussion of the wide sort of policy impacts that you're actually going to occur or might occur as you're actually doing the changes. The approach that was taken in terms of actually running workshops and actually getting folk engaged in a discussion around what the issues were rather than a sort of checklist approach did actually make folk think a little bit more deeply about what was actually happening, and therefore they got a little bit better of an understanding of what the human rights legislation was actually about. And I think also then it didn't make it as controversial as we might have thought it was, given some of the press coverage that there is of human rights legislation.